So leave a comment below if you have ever actually heard of college paintball or that there was a league specifically just for it, because I'm not convinced that everybody actually knows that that's a thing. But yeah, so today we're going to talk about the fact that, one, college paintball is back, and two, what can we do going forward here, and in general, what can teams do to improve the experience for the kids that are in college? So if you guys have any input on this, absolutely please leave us a comment. I'm open to all the ideas, and hopefully I'll hear some new ones that I haven't heard before. And yeah, make sure you subscribe to the Punishers channel here for more chit chat and more product overviews, and we'll catch you after the intro.
I'm so free.
All right, so Joel, when you were in college, you had a job. You were doing like valet stuff, right?
Yeah.
To try to keep some money in your pocket?
I did, yes.
That paid all right, didn't it?
More like beer in my hand, but yeah.
So Joel in college, I know you were in a frat, which does cost a little bit of money. Did you play paintball in college too, or did you take time off?
No, I took time off.
Okay.
College for me was more time consuming than anesthesia school was. So.
Really?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Like undergrad was where undergrad is kind of an all-consuming thing. It can be really hard to balance everything you have going on, and it can be hard to understand for people that didn't go, but it is a pretty consuming thing. And I have seen
Depends
it happen.
if you party or not.
It does. If you're social and if you go and do stuff, then that will end up making it a much more all-consuming kind of thing. Your major will kind of play into it as well, but what I've seen in general, at least with working with Ohio State, is people who go Greek life don't often stick around for paintball, because both of those things cost about as much. Like they cost about the same.
Yeah, cost and time.
Yeah,
sure.
and they both demand a lot of time. So in general, we'll have a kid for like 1 or 2 years. They'll rush a frat and then they leave. So, and they're like, "Oh, shit, paintball's just too expensive." And I'm
so
like,
the summary of this video is don't join a frat.
do not join a frat. Stick with your paintball team. But I do know one person who managed to do both, and it was Yasser. He was in Teak, and he played
Yas.
for. Yeah, he did, man. He did it all.
Shout out to Yas.
But so in reality, what we're coming back to is like, okay, they leave because it's expensive, or it's hard to get into because it's expensive. So, all right, I think that's going to be probably one of the biggest ways that we can improve it.
I think there's a lot of problems with it.
I could completely agree, and the list goes on. So I'm going to defer to where you want to start, and then I will go off of that with the issues that you see with college.
This is kind of like your forte more than
it is.
mine.
It is, but I think my biggest outside has to say.
Well, I think for my biggest issue, like obviously I went to school. There was like a paintball club that kind of existed where I went to college.
Really?
John Carroll University.
I did not know John Carroll had a team.
And I was like in charge of trying to put it together, and it didn't really get off the ground, mainly because most people in college are broke. Now, what I will say is that there has been some successful college programs like Liberty and stuff
Liberty
like
was
that.
huge. UCF is still a strong runner. Penn State has been huge forever.
Yeah. So, but I think the biggest thing is like when you're trying to open the club would be I think the biggest first obstacle that you're going to come across is like the overall aura that comes with like paintball, right? Like it's a violent sport and it's all that stuff, and I think that like trying to open up a club at your university might end up being a problem because
it's always an uphill battle. And I know that at least at Ohio State they have like kind of a 3-tier system. There's a club, like an athlete, like a sports club, and then there's athletic status or whatever, and competitive status. That's what it is. There's a club, athletic club, and then competitive status. Comp status is sweet because that's when they start giving you actual funding. And I think every school kind of has their own version of that.
So as competitive status, would that be like equivalent to Ohio State's football team? Like
not quite, no. So for example, I was told a while back that like the powerlifting team or something, they reached competitive status, and they were getting like a couple tens of thousands of dollars for funding for the year. Yeah, that's what I'm like. Okay, so there is money to throw around, and of course, like I haven't seen these figures. Like a lot of this could be hearsay, but the moral of the story is the two teams that I've heard about, at least at OSU, getting a lot of funding is the powerlifting team and the swim team. For some reason, those teams get a lot of.
I think part of it, Doug, is like the way that the universities probably look at it is like we're only going to fund these clubs that might draw enough attention to make a potential student go to the school.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
And I know for me, like I think that kind of starts with like trying to grow the CPPL league that you're involved in.
Yep.
Because like if the league is strong, then people as like a 17-year-old me is going to want to join that school because I know that I can compete in CPPL. And obviously like, you're still going to go to that school for other reasons, but that could be like another
So I
feature.
actually, one of my kids that I had at OSU, he graduated 2020. he actually so he went to Drexel, played for Drexel. Like he already played before he went to college, and that was one of his main stipulations with looking into where he started. And even when he transferred, he would only go places that had a paintball team that was, and specifically one that was like alive and running and in pretty good standing.
Okay.
So there are people like that exist. They're absolutely.
I know when I was going through high school, I looked into that.
Did you really?
Yeah,
Yes.
I swear I did. Yeah. And at that time, like Penn State's program was really strong.
Yes, it was.
And some other programs I looked into were really strong. And unfortunately, like for what I was trying to do, I didn't feel like it was possible for me to go to a school that was really strong with paintball and really strong with academics. But with that said, I
that can exist for other people.
I considered it.
Yeah, because it really just depends on the region. Because I mean, a lot of the guys that we have and have had on the team are a lot of engineers and a lot of business majors. I was a, like marketing communications major, so like luckily Ohio State at least is good with those things. So we do have that combination depending on what you're looking for. But yeah, it really can be just like a combination of a lot of those things. So I guess next up is I remember having a conversation. We had to have actually a presentation with Ohio State to try to get competitive status. This was right as I was graduating. And some of the things that they ask for is they want a governing body that like for the coaches or something too. Like a governing body that like somehow gives legitimacy to what they're doing. So, which obviously we've had the NCPA.
So are you saying like a certification process for the coaches?
So similar to how the NCAA
Yeah.
is they have their own official this, that, and the other.
Oh, okay.
I think it would be something where the league itself undertakes specific responsibility to like announce, I guess, or like have listed who works where, who coaches where, things like that.
Screening.
Yeah, screen for all those things. Yeah, I think that would do a lot. At least I'm sure other schools have similar, processes as well. But a lot of it is that. And then another thing that we actually encountered is they don't want to give funding for competitive status to teams who only compete in tournament style events. They want to see you. I don't know. They see it as more legitimate if you have to go like during the week somewhere to go do a game, or like if they want to see one-on-one games.
Gotcha.
Is what they want to see. They don't want to see tournament style. But then I'm like, but we have a tennis club now. What we could do is reach out to them and ask if they've gotten funding or if they've also gotten stopped because of the
reaching out to other
thing.
Yeah, I think reaching out to other clubs would be definitely a good point on growing college paintball and everything else like that. But I think there's the two biggest things that I think people come across for paintball is logistics and funding.
Yep.
Right. Like that's with me running Punisher's program in the past and everything else like that. That's always been the situation is logistics, meaning car rides and
place to stay,
time off is a huge one for people. But then on top of that, funding, right? So like I know that Liberty used to have funding, but
I was even told a rumor they offered like a scholarship for paintball. And
I mean that's great. If they can bring people in because of that, and the school can still make money. And get more students because of that, then they should be upgraded to the competitive status so that like, hey, we're getting funding. You want to play paintball. You're 18. You're really good. Maybe you play for a D3, D2 team, whatever. You want to come to our school. We've already scouted you at NXL events or whatever.
Yep.
We want you to come here. Like I think that's a real thing, and part of it too is like scouting, right? I think one thing that would make it more competitive. More competitive is that, if like you have scout, like if you were like, okay, well, we've got 3 studs on Ohio State's team right now, but we need 5 studs that are team players, and I'm going to go recruit.
Yeah.
I'm going to recruit young kids.
Start going to local
in the NXL or the
for...
MSXL and say, hey, you should consider Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that I've actually had a conversation with people about before too, is like making it should start from the ground up. Like, part of growing college paintball is going to be growing the high school portion of paintball. And there used to be, like, back when I was in high school, I actually looked. As a high school student, I looked and I was like, is there a high school league? And found that there was, but there was like next to
held
no
a high school
teams.
Division. Yeah, like they had a high school division, but there was hardly any.
Right. So, but then that all goes back to the logistics of, if I'm a broke high school student, broke college student, how is it manageable for me? Well, I think it becomes manageable based upon like if your school is going to help fund it.
Yep.
Right.
Well, so like hockey, right? Hockey's stupid expensive.
Yeah.
Hockey's very expensive. But people still manage to play it. People still play it.
Paintball is an expensive sport, but I don't think it's without
it's no
reach.
worse.
Now here's my problem with the logistics portion of it is you need a paintball field.
Yep. You can't just go to
practice on campus. Like, how easy is it going to be for you on a Tuesday or a Wednesday to go to practice that's on campus? Like, you've got other stuff going on. You've got finals coming up or whatever, and you're like, damn, I got to drive an hour to a field. That's
a huge barrier is location. Because I know...
didn't Liberty have their own field?
They had 2 turf fields right on campus, which I'm like...
It's awesome.
Like, come on. Like,
that's awesome.
That's such a... Like, you can literally go drill for 1 or 2 hours a day, just like every other sport, because they were getting their paint. They were getting white box paint as well. Like, just balls that'll get out of your gun and let you run drills, and they weren't paying for it. So, that's the thing. If you have the resource... But here's the big thing. Liberty's a private school. They're not a publicly funded school. They're also a lot more conservative. So they're okay with...
Yeah, they're a Christian school.
They are. So they're a lot more okay with sports related to guns.
And since then, the program is dissolved, correct?
Yeah, it died after COVID. Yeah, which is unfortunate. So I'm like, what's happening with those fields
what's
now?
Interesting is the sport itself has grown since COVID.
It has.
But
COVID
because nobody was there for a year and a half at the college campuses, that's why I said COVID, and not just blaming it randomly on COVID.
No,
I hate when people do that. But but really though, like, no one was at these college campuses, right?
Yeah.
So like
no one was out and about. No one was seeing anything.
Yeah.
I remember we had to do like a virtual recruitment fair or whatever. You
How'd
hardly.
that go?
Yeah, exactly. There's a reason there was a dip in recruiting for 1 year. But yeah, as far as like hardline concrete things, one of the better things that Josh Lehman from Columbus Level, he played for Akron, and I believe he actually started Akron's program back around when Dave started OU as well. And the biggest thing he said was they would go to like baseball games up over at what was formerly the Indians, now the Guardians. They would go work the concession stands. Do that a few times a season. They'd have a couple $1,000. That pays for events really quickly. Drexel was somehow getting like 30 or like 20 or 30 grand worth of funding from the school. They also did their own fundraising. So a lot of it seems to be private fundraising, kind of a better way to go about the branding and getting your name out there to actually make that a financial return. Sounds kind of funny, but might be actually through a decent amount of volunteering for a little bit. Get your name out there so that companies and places in the community know who you are, to the point where then you are recognized, you are well liked, and then you can start saying, hey, listen, we're going to be like, we're coming up on our season. If you want to be on our banner or like on our jersey or whatever, like we'd love to represent you guys. And they'll be more open to it because you have already gone and done them a solid, right? Like once or twice, maybe 3 times a year, you go out and clean your local whatever store. You go out and help out at this event, whatever it may be. I think that kind of more community involvement is what can help a lot of school teams. I know that I've heard a lot too about certain teams where they'll relinquish a lot of control over what they can do and when they can practice in exchange for getting that funding. Auburn specifically, this is kind of what killed them, was they had something set up where the school was going to buy their jerseys, the school was going to buy their guns, all their gear, but the school then also got to dictate when they practiced and where they could play and what events they could go to. So there was a kind of a massive trade-off. So it's more so schools that have a lot to lose. So like Auburn's got a football program. We have a football program. Schools like that have a lot to lose otherwise tend to be a lot more guarded about what they do versus Liberty. They're not known for anything. They're just known for being a smart private school. Cool, yeah, let's give the paintball team 50 grand and fund them and buy them a field. Like that's what brings people here. So I think you're up against a lot more than just your own personal costs when it comes to trying to get funding from the university. But I think a lot of that personal fundraising, because we have also fundraised through Ohio State. They offer, you can go and clean the basketball stadium or the hockey stadium. It's like $400 or $500. But if you do that once a week as a team, that will very quickly add up to a couple $1,000s. Now they have, because of COVID, they have offered that less because they're trying to limit the amount of people that are in there at a time and actually doing things. So because of that has made it a little more difficult. But yeah, I think that's one of the biggest barriers is just getting the schools on board to understand that this isn't a bad thing. Like, that it's not, like, as we said earlier, it's a violent sport. It's not worse than football. I would argue football's worse because you're actually physically contacting the person. You can't even touch somebody in paintball.
Right.
So, I don't know.
Well, we're very excited to open up this discussion, guys.
Yeah, please share any ideas.
I think Doug could go on forever, so maybe we'll need an episode 2 part of this after we hear some feedback from you guys in the comments about what you guys think might help.
Please take away from this that the league is back. It's going to be under the CPPL, the Collegiate Paintball Players League. There will be summer shootout for the college teams May 13th down at the farm in Tennessee. Shout out Ira. But also, there will be an alumni division open as well. So if your school, even if they've now folded and gone away, like Purdue or Auburn, if you can get your alumni to come back and want to play the event, they are more than welcome. I will be playing with the Ohio State alumni.
Old school jerseys.
Yeah, I would love to see the throwback jerseys. I want to see the old Raza jerseys from back in the day. They're like a 4X or whatever. But yeah, this is going to be a process. This is going to be a not short-winded topic at all because there's a lot of intricacies and ins and outs with this one. But please drop any input that you guys may have. If you've had success at your school getting funding and not having them completely dictate everything you do, would love to hear about that. But if you do enjoy this video, guys, please make sure you subscribe, drop a comment, let's talk about this topic. And if you want to pick up his used Shocker XLS, I'll try to put the link down in the description. This was sitting here for a bit. JT Triad loaders will be shipping soon. We have some videos out about those. And yeah, make sure you use the links in the description if you're going to shop Punisher's Paintball.
See you guys soon.
Later.
I'm so